How to use anxiety, depression, and stress to awaken your inner genius. Welcome. Today I want to share something that's really important for everybody, especially in our current society and culture. It's concerning our mental and emotional health, and specifically consciousness. Those of you who do stay till the end will gain a deeper insight into the core elements of true mastery and how to be empowered. So before we begin, close the door, switch your phone on silent, and make sure you won't be disturbed for the next half an hour or so that you give yourself the best opportunity to absorb everything you need to in this webinar. I'm Warren Munitz, master coach, author, and founder of Integrative Coaching. In my early childhood, I struggled desperately with anxiety and depression. I had a spiritual awakening which led me to go to India to become a monk in my early 20s, where I spent 6 months meditating 12 hours a day in the foothills of the Himalayas. I was studying yoga, meditation, mysticism, coaching, NLP, hypnosis, and transpersonal psychology, to name a few. I read over 1,000 books in such a short period, and by 2000, I started a yoga and meditation school, and I formally began coaching in 2005. I've appeared on several radio and TV shows discussing personal development, consciousness, meditation, and coaching. In 2017, I published an online course called The Path of Transcendence. And in 2019, I published a book called The Infinite Spark. Presently, I continue to coach and teach people from all over the world about awakening the inner genius and the source of consciousness. There's a picture of me on the Espresso Show and my current book, The Infinite Spark. Here are a few testimonials from some of my clients. Here's what we're going to cover in the next 30 minutes. We'll be discussing the 3 secrets to awakening your inner genius using the help of anxiety, depression, and stress. The key problems we face in our life are the error of perception, trying to think our way out of problems created by thinking, and attempting to avoid uncomfortable feelings and emotions in an effort to find happiness and contentment. So let's get into it. I'm going to tell you about the 3 secrets. Life is happening through you, not to you. Stop avoiding the inner experience and presence. Secret number 1, life is happening through you. Most people think that external events are causing their internal experiences. Newtonian science has governed our worldview for the past 400 years, stating that reality is objective, outside there. But quantum physics has proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that reality is completely subjective. The one illusion that we have to dispel is that life is not happening to you, life is happening through you. How we perceive the world is literally an illusion. We are primed to see in one direction. We are primed to see outwards. But the whole process of perception is actually happening within us. Your perception of how you see the world is actually an image that you experience internally as seeing it outside of you. This includes your perception of yourself, your very self-image. Perception is projection. The whole world is a projection of your consciousness. Now, if you can fully realize this state of consciousness now, it will resolve most, if not all, of the issues you are dealing with. Where you put your focus changes your experience of reality and your sense of control. Are you putting your focus outside of you, or are you willing to put your focus on the inside? Stop avoiding the inner experience is secret number 2. We need to take responsibility for our inner experience. And the moment you take responsibility for your inner experience, you actually start to gain a sense of control, because you are choosing to acknowledge that what's happening inside of you is completely your responsibility. It is your reality. And if it's inside of you, you can't actually get away from it. You can't throw it away. You can't run away from it. You can't cut it out, because it's you. When we talk about inner harmony, contentment, and the way to inner peace, this essentially means to love yourself. Experiences of frustration, anxiety, fear, depression, and stress are being experienced inside of you. So when you start to take ownership of them, meaning not trying to suppress the emotion or shut off the anxiety, we begin to realize, wait a minute, could this internal dimension be sharing something with me? It is sharing with me in its language, a message from the inside. And I must learn how to listen to and interpret that message. Let's say you have a child, and that child starts to cry. And you don't know why that child is crying. If it's your child, it's your responsibility to find out, right? Now, the child's cry might feel like it's hurting your ears, and the experience of your child crying can be uncomfortable. The language the child is communicating in is not English. You have to interpret it. You have to become curious to what is really going on with this child. Does its nappy need to be changed? Is the child hungry? Is the child cold? Does the child feel like it needs to be loved? Does it need contact? What's wrong? If we personify that our emotion is the child, your feelings are the child, then without opening up to the emotion and actually allowing yourself to become curious, to stop judging, to stop critical judgment of the feeling itself, you would never understand it. You would never be able to actually resolve the underlying issue, because you will have blocked out any insight and understanding or interpretation that could come from being open and receptive. But the moment we become open to it and we stop judging that feeling, all of a sudden what happens to our relationship with that part of us? A shift happens. We move from the state of rejection to one of acceptance, from inner conflict to communion. You start having compassion for yourself. You start having empathy for yourself. You start loving yourself. You start looking at how to heal this part of you that is in need of your attention. And then we have to capitalize on recognizing that this inner dimension is present all the time, that it is there all the time. Our child, our inner child. This is not something we should only do when we talk about it or when we meditate, but this is something that we should really become conscious of on an ongoing, daily, even moment-to-moment basis. And this brings us to secret number 3, presence. Learning to live in the moment is learning to recognize and be anchored in the source of consciousness, the eternal presence. Now, living in the moment doesn't mean you forget about time altogether. If your bus departs at 5 p.m., you must plan to be there on time. Time is a man-made construct to help us maintain a consensus about the rhythm of things. If we get that it's a construct, that means that we have created it for the purpose of being able to interact with each other. It is a tool. But you don't have to let time and history define who you are. For example, the present moment is the only existing experience of being. It is always this present moment. Not even an hour ago exists anymore, and not even 2 minutes into the future exists. What we need to be more aligned to is this present moment. The present moment is not something outside of you. The present moment is where you find the source of consciousness. That source of consciousness is the present moment. The source of consciousness is the source of life. It's the source of everything. And if you can align, open up to, and allow it in, that brings you into harmony, inner peace, and opens you up to your inner genius. Because it is the source of everything, there can be nothing other that is more intelligent or more genius than this inner source of consciousness. It is without a second. Now, this isn't your intellect. This isn't your persona. This isn't your ego. It is nothing you can think of. This is the very essence of your being. Now, remember what we started off with. How can stress, anxiety, and depression help you access your inner genius? Well, those very same emotions are what actually allow you to become aware of where you are not aligned to that inner genius. And it's not that you need to look outside of yourself as to why you are not aligned, or you look into history and say, this is why I'm not aligned. The emotion itself is bringing you to the actual experience of where the misalignment is happening. And that is how we reconnect. So if we are stuck in our head, as so many people are stuck in that state of overthinking, that analysis paralysis, and look inside, we can begin to notice that feeling of stress. The issue is that most people try to think themselves out of the stress, think themselves out of the feelings. But the truth is, those feelings are just a beacon for your attention. It's there to help to move away from overthinking and to start to reconnect and realign with the source of consciousness. It is there to bring your attention to the feeling itself, to open up to that feeling. Let go of thinking. To realign and to reconnect with the very source of life is to reconnect with the inner genius, with the infinite pure consciousness. And that is how we come back. By following the emotion, not as the reaction to something, but as an internal experience that can actually lead us deeper into flow, into alignment with our source. So we've got to go through some kind of discomfort of asking, where am I misaligned? What are the false beliefs I have about truth, about the source? Because those false beliefs are keeping me disconnected. And when I'm disconnected, all of a sudden, there is stress, there's anxiety and fear. And that is what is actually happening. The feeling is coming up and telling me I'm disconnected. If you allow yourself to turn and look at it, instead of trying to find a way of escaping it, if you turn and look towards it, then it will say, I'm here. And then you begin to recognize your inner truth, your inner genius. All of a sudden, that source of pain becomes the doorway, a portal into your inner dimension. And the acknowledgement of your inner truth leads to harmony and inner peace, which leads to the ability to see the world and reality from that much deeper place within. From there, you can see life at such a high level that you can see opportunities where before you only saw issues and problems. From this inner position, you can see so many more roads and avenues which you should be going down, which maybe you were not even aware of. You start seeing through the illusion. Take the example. Imagine you are sitting watching a movie on a screen in front of you with the projector behind you. The projector is projecting the image of the movie onto the screen in front of you. Now, if you wanted to change what's on the screen and you try to do something to the screen itself, nothing would change. You can't go to the screen in front of you to change what's on it, because the same movie is still being projected from the projector behind you. To change what's on the screen, you'd have to go to the projector itself and change what's on the film that's being projected. Now really take this in. When you see what you consider as reality, where do you think reality is? When you look using your eyes and you see what's coming in through your eyes, there's this idea that you're actually experiencing reality outside of yourself. That the it that is real is out there. There's the experience that you see reality outside of you, as when you watch the movie on the screen from the projector. The movie isn't on the screen. Only the projection of the movie is on the screen. Just a reflection of what's on the film that's being projected. So the only way to change reality, the movie, is to change the film, and that film exists within you. So what's next? This process can be very intense, and so it's helpful to sometimes get guidance. It can be very difficult to remain aware of our inner feelings continuously throughout the day, every day, and not get distracted by our constant thinking, especially when we haven't been making this a habit, when we haven't been anchored in it, and especially when we don't know the inner journey. We can often think that we should leave our job or change careers or change our relationships or travel to the top of a mountain and meditate in solitude just to find success. We can often end up searching for something outside of us when all we need to do is learn to look within. Are you getting it now? For those of you who want some assistance with this process, I've created a link below where you can book a call with me to get a deeper understanding of where you are and how to get started or how to go deeper. Talk to you on the call. See you inside.